This now, former Independent Police Investigative Directorate, that's Robert McBride. His testimony has been postponed to Thursday. He was to have testified before the State Capture Commission today, but people he is implicating were not served with notices in time. And eNCA's Erin Bates is covering the commission for us. And let's go live to Parktown. Now, Erin, good morning to you. So the commission adjourned for the day, but the commission chairperson had harsh words for his legal team.
Certainly, Chairperson Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo saying that the omission by the legal team for which Advocate Paul Pretorius Senior Counsel took responsibility was unacceptable. Polly, we must remember that McBride was set to appear on the 15th of February initially, then postponed till the 18th. He actually sat in the witness chair as a show of preparedness, readiness to testify at the inquiry, and yet since February until now, with the postponement granted then, the 30 to 50 people implicated in his testimony still have not been notified by the legal team. A serious oversight. Karima Brown, what do we make of this omission and the harsh words from the chair?
Well, I think what we need to take from this is to look at what the reasons are that Advocate Paul Pretorius advanced for the delay. He acknowledged that it's their fault, but he said that they couldn't anticipate the length of certain testimonies, they couldn't anticipate how long people had to take, and of course the judge said to him, those things simply do not matter because the rules are very clear. The time period that they had was enough. Earlier when we crossed, we spoke about the fact that the infrastructure for this commission is provided by the Justice Department. And I think the Justice Minister should honestly give us an explanation for why this commission is not capacitated, because when this commission was set up, it was going to always have logistical issues. It was going to always have testimony running over time. So these things all had to be anticipated. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the first secretary of the commission was in fact removed because he was linked to allegations of corruption with Bosasa. The commission has to restore credibility in the fact that they can handle what is coming their way. And the criminal justice system is also what Advocate Pretorius said we'll be focusing on. So we're moving on from Bosasa, we're moving on from the Guptas. We're now looking at how the South African Police Services, the NPA, the Hawks, the SIU, the financial intelligence agencies, all of these things, how they were involved one way or the other in the issue around state capture. And of course, this is the issue that most South Africans are keen on. People every day on the radio, in the newspapers, when you talk to them, ask, why is no one arrested? And Robert McBride is going to provide us with evidence of deep-seated corruption in the police services and in the criminal justice system. We've already seen in the Bosasa case where Mr. Agrizzi said the minute the NPA started a case on someone, they had access to that information because of the leaks. So this is an absolutely critical section of us coming to terms with what actually happened to our criminal justice system. And the fact that the Justice Department, in terms of preparing for this commission, didn't anticipate for this is hugely problematic. I think Michael Masuta, the Justice Minister, should actually give the country an explanation because ultimately he's responsible for providing the support and infrastructure so that this commission can do its work fairly and without prejudice to anybody.
We did hear from Pretorius that in the next few weeks they will be bumping up the personnel for the commission, including attorneys. But another name that came up talking about the Hawks was Johan Booysen. So between him and McBride, we hear about 100 implicated persons. What kind of evidence can we expect from him?
Well, Johan Booysen is, of course, the former head of the Hawks in KwaZulu-Natal. And the famous reason why he was taken out of his job was the so-called death squads in Katomena. We know now that the Sunday Times had to apologize for that because the information was actually incorrect. The journalists that wrote the story were fired. Those are people like Stefan Hofstadter and so on. But what is critical about Johan Booysen's evidence is the fact that it places the then police minister, Natim Tetwa, in a meeting with a set of prosecutors saying that they must work over weekends. Now, of course, we have the separation of powers, and you don't have a minister of police instructing officials of the National Prosecuting Authority on how to go about a case. The other thing that is important is that one of the families that were killed by the police sued the police, and of course Johan Booysen lost his job because they were told they operated like a death squad. But the funny thing is that when the Kizi family sued Natim Tetwa, he defended his action and said that the killing was a lawful killing by the police. So it can't be both. You can't fire the head of the Hawks for participating in an illegal killing and then defend the Department of Police when a victim of that same group of people sues you and say that the killing was lawful. So Natim Tetwa is going to be one of the current sitting cabinet ministers that will be implicated in this case. The other person that also will be implicated is the current head of the National Prosecuting Authority in KwaZulu-Natal, Moiponi Noko, because she's the one that actually brought the charges against Johan Booysen. And of course, he was supposed to testify on Wednesday. He will now be coming on Monday. So I think we are going to get some really deep-seated, granular detail of information of how the system was in fact corrupted and what led to the sacking of the then Hawks head in KwaZulu-Natal.
Karima, if we just look at the numbers, we've heard that only 2 witnesses, McBride and Booysen, will be testifying on issues with law enforcement. We've had evidence before claiming that a Gupta brother boasted about the capture of law enforcement agencies. So 2 witnesses on the topic and about 100 people implicated. Does that imbalance itself reflect how captured these agencies possibly are?
Absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head, Erin. The fact is, we must remember, we had Richard Mdluli, who was the head of crime intelligence. We had Burning in Tlemeza, who was the head of the Hawks. We had Mr. Khomotso Pahlani, who was the head of the SAPS. All of them are implicated in criminal activities. Mr. Mdluli has a 10-year case that remains unresolved. General Pahlani is currently on trial. Now, if the South African Police Commissioner is on trial, then it tells you, of course, what the rest of the police looks like, because state capture is also not just, didn't just happen at the top. These people put their subordinates and their favorites into very powerful provincial positions. We know, of course, that they've all been changed now. We've got new heads, but the networks of people are still in their jobs. Those enclaves are still there. And of course, we've seen a very coordinated fight back against the state capture inquiry. So it's not as if these people are sitting on their laurels and not fighting back, because they know that if the evidence is compelling, they can possibly go to jail. And so I think that this postponement is unfortunate. And as I said, the Justice Department owes us an explanation. And the fact that over 100 people are implicated confirms the call that Robert McBride has always made, which is for a full commission of inquiry into the entire criminal justice system. And the numbers here just tells us that we require that. The fact that the first commission secretary from the Justice Department, seconded here, is implicated in a Bosasa bribe tells you the depth of the corruption in the criminal justice system and the extent to which former President Jacob Zuma made sure that he had people who would do his bidding in that section of the state.
Karima Brown, political analyst there. Thank you. Xoli, talk about unfortunate. Zondo's called it unacceptable, this postponement. He has emphasized, as has Pretorius, that the inquiry's legal team and the chair will be doing work over the next 3 days, but we only have a public sitting again on Thursday, when we are finally set to hear, after several postponements, from former IPID head Robert McBride.
All right.